Nico Iamaleava said he expected to win a natty. I got a problem with that verbiage. And the reason I have a problem with that is you're talking about a guy that needs to be a better leader. Tennessee has not hidden that fact at all. A more vocal leader. And being a more vocal leader means putting together off-season workouts. It means being an Al Wilson or being a Peyton Manning that put together off-season workouts. That's what Nico Iamaleava needs to be doing. He doesn't need to go back to California this summer. And if you want to do a 3 or 4 day weekend, that's fine. He doesn't need to take Mike Matthews or whoever he selects to LA with him. He needs to be at Tennessee putting together voluntary, involuntary practices that can certainly benefit the skill position players and can benefit linebackers and the secondary and defensive backs, but it can also to some extent help the linemen too. The summer is huge. In other words, I expect Nico Iamaleava to be on campus leading those workouts. And if he's not, then he shouldn't expect to even make the college football playoff. I just got a real problem with that verbiage.
Well, I set up the poll question based on your issue. So Nico Iamaleava saying he expected to win a natty shows delusion or moxie? And you're saying it shows delusion to a certain degree.
Well, yeah, I think it does show delusion because, listen, Tennessee is not going to win a championship running this 12 personnel stuff. The 2 tight end look I thought was very, very good coaching at the time because they needed that. But why couldn't Nico get the ball out quicker to overcome the offensive tackles early in the season? Why couldn't he? Go ahead.
The receivers weren't getting open either.
Okay. Well, again, that speaks to what was your preseason or off-season work like? I mean, because there was enough talent where, I mean, other than Brew McCoy being not as explosive as previously, there was enough talent to maybe not replicate 2022, but come way closer than they did.
No, because Josh Heupel forced Brew McCoy out there as the number 1 wideout, and that slowed everything down. See, I totally disagree with you on this. I love what he said. I'm going to give the real quick quote and then talk about it. He says, quote, "Man, I expected a natty. I'm not going to lie. I came up short. And yeah, man, it was a bummer, a hard loss to take. I think it just motivated the whole team and all of us as a whole to go out and get one this year." I love that quote. Nico setting the expectation for himself. And Nico, I didn't want to hear a guy come out and say, yeah, we took a good step last year. I don't want to hear that. Okay, you're in your 5th year under Josh Heupel, and Nico Iamaleava is a $2 million man. So if he came out and said, oh, we took a good step, we're doing this. Nope, no steps. No steps. You're there. You're a $2 million man. And so I love what he said. I'm a huge fan of it. And I also think that, look, I mean, don't you think you're nitpicking on this point? You say he needs to do all-season workouts and, you know, practices with the players when the coaches aren't around. One, we don't know that he's not doing that, but more importantly, I don't think you can shove aside the whole going to California with Mike Matthews. I mean, he knows Mike Matthews is going to be his go-to guy. And what does he say? Let's go to California. Let's work out together. And you can be my go-to guy. And we can establish some chemistry.
Yeah. He needed to be on campus working with all the receivers. I'm sorry. David said, could Nico be a Vincent Yarbrough? Wow. That, you know, a guy who has all the physical ability, but doesn't have the assertiveness. I'm not ruling that out. I think we'll find out pretty quickly this fall.
I think so too, but we don't. And we're hearing, you know, I'm hearing some conflicting reports. Sources I've heard from you, funny enough, and you've heard them too, is what I'm saying, is that sources close to the program are saying that Nico doesn't have that moxie. But then I know some players are talking about it, not like to be the good guy. They're honestly speaking with you, and they're saying, no, he does have moxie. And yeah. So
no, I've publicly, they're piling on. They're saying that he needs to be more of a vocal leader. That's what you do when you're trying to inspire someone to greater heights. And I get that. But what I'm told behind the scenes is that he has leadership ability, that he's a dog and all that. But I have my doubts. I mean, The people I'm hearing from have not won a national championship. So maybe they don't truly know what it takes to win a national championship.
Let me ask you something crazy, and this is a little weird, and you can tell me if I'm sounding like the boomer here. But you know the whole story of Nico reporting to practice and reporting to like team meetings in pajama pants last year?
Yes.
Does that give off a vibe of I don't want to be
Yes.
here? You think it does?
No, it gives off a vibe of everything's chill. Everything's gonna be
Yeah,
fine.
like because I'm guessing like my guess is like in meeting rooms, not like in meeting rooms. Peyton Manning probably went in with like a buttoned up shirt and some nice jeans, maybe tucked in with the belt, didn't he? Like he went in business casual, didn't he? To meeting rooms.
Well, or at least in team gear. I don't know why you're wearing pajama pants. I mean, if here's the issue is there isn't another leader on this football team that is like a Manning or is like an Al Wilson. Maybe Arian Carter. I've heard that he is a great leader, but I think that's throwing a lot on him. The issue is it has to be Nico because there are no other candidates. And it has to be Nico because the Vols need to be explosive offensively. The bottom line is it has to be Nico, Caleb.
It does have to be Nico. By the way, it could be Boo Carter. That dude's talking. And he could be the leader. But you're right. I'm not so sure that it's not going to be yet, though. I mean, again, we're not hearing the best things about his leadership publicly over the last month or so. But again, see, you and I look at this totally differently. Okay, so he worked out with Mike Matthews in California. You say he needs to be on campus. He was maybe at home with his family for a few weeks, and he decided, hey, I want my receiver out with me so we can practice our chemistry together. And they just kind of agreed. What if it went on like that? What if he's gone to Mike Matthews' house in Georgia to work out since then?
What if I'm Chris Brazzell and I'm sitting there while you're working out with Mike Matthews? I'm like, I would like my starting quarterback to throw me some passes.
Maybe they do, though. We don't. What if Chris Brazzell didn't want to go? We don't know. Okay, I know this much. I'll tell you this. I know that Peyton Manning and Joey Kent specifically did workouts by themselves with nobody else around in the 90s. And
extra work.
Yes, to try to establish chemistry. I don't think Marcus Nash and Peerless Price were like, well, why am I not out there?
Well, they could have been out there. You don't have the option to be out there if they're in LA.
Okay, but maybe this was a thing where Nico was home with family and paid Mike Matthews to come out. He wants to establish a real good rapport with Mike Matthews. And for the record, I like that because I'm sorry, Chris Brazzell, you are a complimentary receiver. I like to have a go-to receiver that sucks up most of the catches. Yeah. I like an Amari Cooper.
I like to have a bunch of receivers. I like to have a Craig Faulkner thrown in there. That's going back, isn't it?
I know. Yep. But Craig Faulkner was there because Corey Fleming was the guy that he surely went to.
Right, exactly. But the point is there's more than one. And listen, I don't know. Singling out one, I don't know that was very wise.
I like multiple receivers, but I only like three. I think the best thing David Cutcliffe did when he took over Tennessee in 2006 after 2005, and I've always told you the story, Dave. In 2005 and 2004, it felt like Tennessee didn't know who their receivers were. David Cutcliffe stepped in. We always saw what he did to reform Eric Ainge. I think the biggest thing is he said, yeah, we're kind of done with this rotating receivers. Robert Meacham's the go-to guy. No questions asked. And you were covering practice. Isn't that basically what he said at that time?
Yeah, I mean, he simplified things, definitely.
Yeah, and he basically said, Eric, you're going to look for Robert Meacham first. Every single time you throw the ball, Robert Meacham is your first option. Period. End of story. And even if he's double covered, maybe still throw to him. But if he's triple covered, then throw to Jason Swain or Brett Smith. And it worked. I mean, Robert Meacham had one of the greatest single seasons in Tennessee football history.
Dylan says, Dave, the times have changed. You've got 85 young men with a lot of money in the locker room. The drive to go pro isn't as big anymore because of it. Hard to rile the guys up when they've been paid. A lot of truth to that. And you don't have to get paid big time like Nico did, $2 million a year, or James Pierce got $1 million a year, I was told, in $100,000 payments for 10 months. You don't have to get even paid like that. When you're 18 or 19, if you made $100,000 just for signing with Tennessee, you feel like you've made all the money in the world. Do you remember getting paid when you were like 8? I don't know your first job, Caleb, but getting paid other than looking at your pay stub and saying, what is this FICA thing? the overwhelming thing was like, oh, I've got $400. I am loaded.
Yeah.
I am golden. I mean, I can go to the Chinese place down from my dorm, and I can go maybe drink some adult beverages that I'm not old enough to have at the time, and I'm golden. That's what a lot of these players have to be thinking when they get 6 digits, even though you and I know that 6 digits doesn't last very long over the course of 50 years.
No, not at all. Well, and Nico's at 2 million. I get all that. But see, you can maybe make the case that they put more pressure on themselves to do well because of that. That's the thing. And so I do like, I'm enjoying what the message board's saying, because I know this is weird and it's one of the old school things, but I am kind of like, if you're leading a group of people, you should be wearing pajama pants. I do think you should, like, again, if you're like in team meetings, you should dress business casual. If you're the quarterback, you should kind of make the point of, I'm here. I'm kind of an extension of the coach. And
amen. And Nico needs to be the bad guy too. And I'm not sure that he's up for that, to be real honest with you. A vocal leader is one thing, but if he puts together these summer workouts, which he needs to be doing, he also needs to be reporting back to the coaches about who's dogging it, because he needs to be really honest. And I feel like that he wants to be one of the guys. You're not one of the guys. You're exactly right. You said it. Extension of the coaching staff. That's what he needs to be. Now, pajama pants won't do. I don't know that you need to be business casual, but I will say that you need to at least be in team gear, right? I mean, they give you thousands of dollars of team gear. I mean, how difficult is it to put down the pajama pants, change clothes, show up? Now,
yeah, I agree. And I guess the best way to, and by the way, I don't think he has to be the biggest leader. That's where I break from you, because someone could do it. But I think, like, where we talked last week, Michael Irvin was the leader of the Cowboys, but I guess Troy Aikman was the one that called team meetings and would, like, kind of be the extension of the coach, wasn't he? A lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the coaches would ask Michael Irvin for his advice, but they would use Troy Aikman to parrot what they wanted, didn't they? If that makes sense.
Yes,
and
absolutely. David says, when you're financially secure in college football these days, so what would motivate a lot of these players to get better? I don't know, especially.
I'll tell you what motivates you. More money. Because guess what, Dave? What Red Bull you saying, Water Boy? What's the only thing better than a crawfish dinner?
I don't know.
5 crawfish dinners. What's better than $2 million?
$5 million.
Exactly. And guess what? Nico could get more money if he becomes a national star.
Men in pajama pants is like women's butt covered in leggings. Joy trying to, and then Nico's not the guy. Wow. So let's start that poll question. Is Nico? Do you still believe that Nico's the guy? So yeah, we'll throw that out there. Nico, now this is an old story. This isn't new. So, and I think he's changed his direction there. But Nico wearing pajamas to team meetings is unprofessional and laziness. College athletes are getting paid and should be forced to wear something more presentable at team meetings. I've thought about what I should wear yesterday. I mean, I wear the same thing every day. You don't know what I'm wearing below my waist. It may be slacks, it may be shorts. But I did certainly think about what I should wear when I was doing Will West show on remote yesterday from 3 to 7, sitting in for Tyler Ivins. I mean, that has to go through your head. And I'm sorry, I know I'm a 51-year-old man, but that would have gone through my head when I was 20 or 21. Because I don't know about you, Caleb, but you show up one time way underdressed, and typically doesn't that leave an impression? And you're like, I always want to be overdressed as opposed to underdressed.
Well, I totally agree. And that's where I think, like, I remember this is kind of a weird thing for me, but I'll never forget a couple of years ago, I was covering, when I, at one of my old jobs, I was covering a meeting at the White House, and I kid you not, Dave, the Senate Minority Leader, the Senate Majority Leader, the House Speaker, the House Minority Leader, the House Majority Leader all showed up in suits and tennis shoes at the White House. And that kind of hit me. I'm like, you should be wearing dress shoes in the White House. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, if you are a politician meeting with other politicians to discuss things, don't you think you should be wearing dress shoes with your suit? Like, you shouldn't be wearing tennis shoes. And it just gave off a vibe of, it looked like they were trying to be cool and like, fit in. But I'm like, you guys are leaders of the country. You should be wearing dress shoes. Sorry.
Well, and especially, I don't know how often you shop for dress shoes, but the comfortable dress shoes are more expensive. That you can get dress shoes that they feel like you're walking on bricks for $50, but those guys could afford whatever shoes they wanted. Nico could afford whatever pants he wanted. It's not
Heck,
like he was. Listen, I mean, the reason people I would think, wear pajama pants or other things like that is because they don't have the money to afford other things. At least I would think
exactly.
that's the case.
No, I totally agree.
Now, this is a great point. Adam says that's where culture comes in, Dave. Saban's guys wouldn't hang their laurels on 100K. I tend to agree with that.
Totally agree.
Now,
Totally agree.
another great point made on the message board by Dylan. I don't think Nico is the success guy. He's the turnaround guy. Nico made it cool to come to Tennessee again. Either GMAC or Faison will be the one to put hardware back in the trophy case. A lot on GMAC. He's become a bit of a fan favorite, George McIntyre. I honestly believe that he is every bit as talented as Nico from a mobility standpoint. I do think that Nico has a better release, better arm, more accurate arm in general, but I think they're comparable in a lot of different directions, in a lot of different ways. In other words, I don't believe that just because McIntyre had 4 stars next to him and Nico had 5, that there's a significant difference. I think they're pretty close based off my own evaluation.
Yeah, I think so too. And then intangibles will end up making a difference in that regard when it's all said and done.